In the golden light of the Mediterranean sun, on the ancient island of Rhodes, lived a man named Nikos. Nikos was a visionary, an adventurer, and the original owner of Helios. Today, we're going to talk about how Helios started and what it's become as you see it today. So today I'm really excited to share Helios, the D110 double cab. Let's talk a little bit about ownership. I get questions often, where do we get our Defenders originally? And maybe this will help you understand a little more of what's actually happening when it comes to a Helderburg Defender. So the original owner, Nikos, that lived on the island of Rhodes in Greece, was the original owner. Granted, it was far, far different than what you see it as today. It was tired, it had scratches, it had dents, and it was originally white with a little bit of green here and there, meaning that he replaced the doors. This Defender is over 25 years old. So I think that's the important thing to point out, because a lot of times when I'm out and I'm driving around and I stop somewhere at a gas station or whatever, people come up and go, "Oh, is that the brand new Defender? Is that the 2025 model?" And I'm like, no ma'am, no sir. This is a 1995 model or 93 or 98, whatever the case might be. So again, 25 years old originally, but it's a complete restoration from the ground up. So Nikos, he's no longer with us, and we bought it from his grandson, but Nikos was a third generation olive farmer. This Defender was originally used on an olive farm, and I think we would call it an olive farm. It's olive trees, right? So it would be a farm, but anyway. So it was a farmer's truck, hence that's what a Land Rover, a Defender, was originally created for, was for farmers. And just knowing that bit of history about it and how it was used, and hearing some fascinating stories about Nikos, short for Nicholas, and how he used this Defender. He cherished it, and while he did take really good care of it, it still required a full nut bolt restoration from the ground up. And I know that term is used in the industry and can be used very loosely, but it is a Helderburg. So being that it's a Helderburg, you know that it's taken all the way down to the chassis, to the frame. Frame is put in a frame table. It's checked for trueness, straightness. It's straightened. All rust is removed. It's reinforced, made stronger. And then we build the chassis up to a modern style chassis, meaning coil springs, polyurethane bushings, just the whole works. That is what allows a Helderberg to drive the way it drives, hence like a modern SUV. So now that we've got the story out of the way, Helios, of course, if you know Greek gods, is the god of sun. And it seemed very fitting just talking about the color, because this color is very close to a Bahama gold, but being a Helderberg, I like one of a kind, so one and done. We did one very similar to this for John in Sun Valley, Idaho. He had a winch, and his color was just slightly different. This one has a very, very fine metallic pearlescence in it that is really hard to see, but as the sun's coming out right now, you can see that it really starts to pop. And video and pictures just won't do the justice of it. It's something that you have to see in person, and that's what clients say all the time, and people that see a Helderberg for the first time. But this has a brownish mustard undertone in a way that the brown tone brings it down. So it doesn't look like a school bus. It's not a bright yellow. It's a very sophisticated gold is what it is. And it's not so gold that you'll see something coming soon. It's just a very sophisticated, true British feeling color is what it is. And I think it complements my brown suit very nicely, by the way, if I don't say so myself, and Lucy that's taking a nap. But anyway, so let's talk about the drivetrain, the engine, because that's probably the most exciting part when it comes to Helderburg right now. Well, I wouldn't say the most exciting part, but it's extremely exciting for me. So this has been over 3 years in the making with our R&D team, that we've been working on turbo diesel engines. And as you know, turbo diesel is my favorite engine, and I'll talk about that a little more. But this is a proprietary design for Helderburg, meaning the engine. And we've done some magical things to this engine. Not only is it fast, and you can reach highway speeds really fast, quicker than most other SUVs on the road, but it's also extremely fuel efficient. We are talking about, on the low side, 26, 27 miles per gallon. On the high side, 32 miles per gallon. So you have the speed, and when I say speed, yes, I'm talking about serious speed. And I'm not condoning that you should drive down the road like a hooligan, like Will does, or like I do, since we just got back from a rally in Arkansas and drove the old Porsche. But anyway, it's definitely fast. So you have that speed, which makes it easier to drive, because if you need to pass a car, if you need to get out into traffic or get out of the way quickly, you can absolutely do that. You can spin the tires, you can make this thing dance like your heart's content. In fact, off of the line, this turbo diesel is quicker than a V8 GM engine. So just let that sink in for a moment of what I'm talking about. Off of the line, if you're going 0 to 60, and I'm not saying that 60 that the V8 would be slower, but you would be able to run right with that big, huge V8 engine that's drinking the gas. So the V8 engine, just so you know, 8 to 12 miles per gallon. This one, we're talking 27, 28 miles per gallon, and diesel is readily available. That's within tractor trailers, that's what the farmers use, that's what's in the tugboats. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And diesel fuel is not refined as much as an unleaded fuel, so it's a better fuel for the environment, or at least that's what I've read. You can argue with me about it or whatever. Well, I'm not going to argue with you, but anyway, you get my point. So again, over 3 years in R&D for this engine. It has the speed, it has the torque, and it's quiet. You don't smell like exhaust fumes, and the maintenance is what's beautiful about this. You don't have spark plugs, so you don't have to worry about tune-ups and all that. You just change the oil every 3,000 miles. It's a very, very simple engine that you can find any independent mechanic to do the work that needs to be done if there needs to be any work. It's highly reliable. And that's the reason that you see a Defender in the remotest parts of the earth, where the Red Cross and FEMA and the list goes on, where they are using Land Rover Defenders because of the simplicity in their design and the reliability. Land Rover does have a black cloud over its, head, let's say, and that's because of the Land Rover Discovery that came out later that had all the electronics. And it wasn't necessarily an engine failure that was happening, it was the electronics. This one is pretty much void of electronics, and it just goes, meaning that it doesn't have power sunroofs and power seats, because that's what really plagued the Range Rover, was those type of electronics. So again, turbo diesel, and it has a lot of torque. So let's talk about the safety. Gasoline V8 gives you the horsepower, easier to spin the tires, not the best vehicle if you're going to be in a snowy condition, icy condition, muddy condition, because it's more prone to spinning the tires. A diesel has more torque and it's less prone to spinning the tires, but you can make the tires spin. You definitely can. You just give it a little more accelerator and they will spin. But the diesel is better for tricky road conditions or off-road conditions. And I know a lot of my clients say, well, I'm never going to go off-roading. And it's not an off-roading factor. It's about if you were in a part of the country and it starts to snow, or if it starts to ice over. Granted, ice is ice, but spinning your tires really quick with a high horsepower V8 can get you in a lot of trouble, versus the diesel has the torque and less prone to spin the tires. So that's the engine. Let's leave it with that. If you have questions about it though, let me know. But I will tell you, I am super excited about this diesel engine for the fuel efficiency, the long term. I mean, easily this engine will go 500, 600,000 miles. Just take care of it with oil changes. Ooh, it's getting windy out here too. Let's talk about the grill. This is a standard Helderburg look, feel that I absolutely love. As you know, I do not like plastic. I love metal. The grill itself is metal. It's not plastic, and it's handmade in Germany. That's important to me. When you're doing a custom vehicle, why would you put something on it that is mass produced off of the shelf? There's really not much of anything on this build that is off of the shelf. Billet aluminum headlights surround. So again, this is metal. This is cut out. Why do plastic? The broken beam headlights, which is a signature headlight for Helderburg, and I just love the look of it because it's all about one of a kind, being unique. That's just important to me. The bumper, that's a very thick metal. It has the oval cutouts, and it has the ears where it pops up, which just gives it a really nice design. And then, of course, the steering dampener guard below with the cutouts that matches it too. So the front end, I find it to be stunning, beautiful, unique, and that's the beauty. When you see a Helderburg, you're like, oh, that's a Helderburg. You can definitely tell a Helderburg when you see it. Now let's go to the side and let's talk about something interesting there. So we're at a different angle now, and I'm in an extra layer, of course, because summer became winter really fast in Sharon Springs, New York, and Lucy needs a jacket too. But we're on the side for the simple fact, I want you to see the arches, the fender flares, whatever you want to call them. This is not what you standardly or normally see on a Helderberg. It's much, much wider. So this is a bolted on arch. And we did this because it's reminiscent of the James Bond Spectre. The Spectre had these very wide arches. And if you remember, if you've looked at anything on helderberg.com, Bayou, which we built for John in Sun Valley, Idaho, had these same arches. And the reason for the arches is to keep all the stuff off of the side of the truck. Depending where you live too, the client that we built this for, Chris, he lives in a part of the country that the tires cannot stick out past the arch. So wider arches for a couple different reasons. One, keep the stuff off the side of the truck. Two, be legal with the DOT, the Department of Transportation. Three, just to give it that Spectre, that much more rugged look. This does have the STT Pro tires on it, which are a mud terrain tire, a really aggressive tire, I would say that again, but they're not as aggressive as the Maxxis Trepador that you would see on Enzo. And if you want to see Enzo, that's the 130. That's the, well, it's a 130 double, well, yeah, just a 130. Enzo was my personal Defender, and it had the Maxxis Trepador, but the Maxxis Trepador is not even a DOT legal tire, and it's shaped like a donut. So it just simply doesn't balance. These drive extremely nice. They drive nice on the highway. They do well in the snow. They do well in the rain. A really well-rounded tire here. Not as big as the Maxxis Trepadors, but drive much better. So that was the decision behind that. So wide arches. You'll notice the roll cage itself. The roll cage, for clarification here, the wings have a cutout here, and in this cutout, there's a bar that goes all the way through and goes to the frame, and it does it in 6 different points. So this is a true functional roll cage. And we're still in the perfect perspective, the perfect line, that what I want you to see is these wings. You're probably thinking, what's a wing, Paul? This is a fender. You know, why are you calling it a wing? Technically, it's called a wing. And being that it's a Helderberg, we do something that you just don't see on other builds, and this is all new aluminum. But here's the key thing. It's the proper gauge of aluminum. It's the proper thickness. And this vehicle's over 25 years old, so you know that the wings are going to be dented and dinged and everything else. So that's why we have to replace these. Along with the bonnet itself, the bonnet is a new style. It's a Puma bonnet. The original bonnet would have been recessed in the center. It doesn't look as rugged and aggressive. And then it does have the hand-cut louvers. Again, this is something that you don't see on another build or other builders. This is hand cut. It's one of our craftsmen, which I will tell you, it's extremely hard to find individuals, craftsmen that know how to work with aluminum. This is all aluminum. Everything's aluminum here. And he hand cuts these louvers. He is a master when it comes to aluminum work. Again, it doesn't serve any purpose, but it looks cool. And this is really reminiscent of back in the day of the Jaguars and the Bugattis and Aston Martins, that they had the louvers cut. They were for cooling. Here, it's just because it looks special. I like it a lot. So let's just put it that way. So moving on down, you'll see on the side, on the lower part here, below the doors, we have rock sliders. This is a very thick aluminum, and it's really for a design cue, because I doubt that Chris is going to take this off-road and climb rocks. But if he was, the step-up bars would come off. It's only a couple bolts. They come off, and then you have these nice rock sliders that would keep you from damaging the body itself, because they're very durable. The wheels on here are a bead locker style. They're 35-inch, with 35-inch tire, and the wheel itself is a 16 by a 12.5, and it does have the Helderburg big brakes on it. So it's got a 6-piston in the front and a 4-piston in the rear with very special rotors, so a lot of stopping power. And I felt it was important to do that. When you start getting the bigger tires, you have this unslung weight as it's rotating, and it just really helps that come to a stop, more or less. You'll notice how the wheels do poke out, and that's because they are the proper offset. And I had some people try to correct me in the past on it, but you know, just trust me. These wheels are specifically for this Defender in the sense that nothing rubs. So when you crank it full, you're not rubbing. If you're off-road, you're not rubbing on anything on the inside like the shocks or anything like that. So it makes for a very nice design. There's another thing that I want to point out when it comes to a 110 double cab. 110 double cab is often confused with a 130. A 130, how you can tell the difference is a 130 has a truck bed that is a separate bed that sits on the back. There's a clear definition that it has a box on the back, versus the 110 double cab is all one body. So think about this as a unibody, because technically what this is it's a 110 wagon, except it has the cab up here and it just doesn't have the enclosed part here. 110 being rounded number, 110 inches from center of axle to center of axle. 90, which would be the two-door variant, would be 90 inches, again, estimated number or rounded number, 90 inches to 90 inches center of axle. The 110, what it does is it gives you the second row. So if you're normally traveling with 3 or 4 people and you want to keep them up here with you versus in the cargo area, then a 110 is going to be ideal. The 90 and the 110, the cargo area is essentially the same size. I mean, it's really close to being the exact same size. So 110, you gain the second row. So that really sums it up. This is Helios, and let's take a look on the interior, because I think this is something you'll also appreciate, that it's a little different, one of a kind. So the interior, while it should be typical Helderburg, it absolutely is. And notice the wood steering wheel, and I want to bring this up. I want to talk about the wood steering wheel because I've had a few people say, oh, I absolutely, well, not a few, quite a few say, I absolutely love the wood steering wheel. Is there anything else that you offer? And the answer is yes. We have the wood steering wheel, which is the most popular, but you can get the wood steering wheel with the silver spokes, or the wood steering wheel with the black spokes, the black anodized, or you can get one that is wrapped in leather. Talking about the steering wheels, we have a couple different variants, and I'm going to talk about the one steering wheel that's made by Modellita, because everything is about heritage, it's about handmade, it's about uniqueness. That's what what I strive for. That's what I appreciate. That's what I love, whether it's my clothing, my watches, my pins, whatever it is. I don't like mass-produced things. That's kind of strong. It's not that I don't like, it's just I choose not to purchase mass produced. I like unique, individual, and that's what you will find on a Helderberg, that everything's unique, individual, that there's very few things on a Helderberg that are just picked off of a shelf. The point that I'm trying to make is so many of the items on a Helderburg is made in a small shop. It's made by a craftsman, and it might be a shop of 2 people, 3 people, or even 4 people, hence Modellita. Modellita has made steering wheels, and I'm not saying this is a Modellita, but it's very similar to the Modellitas we also do too. Modellita's made steering wheels for an extremely long time. Probably, and I'm guessing, just so don't quote me on this, but probably about 70 years they've made steering wheels. And they've made the wood steering wheels for Bentley, MG, Aston Martin, the list goes on. Their craftsmanship is second to none. They do beautiful work. However, it's a dying craft. The individuals that work at Modellita are quite old, as you would imagine, and there's not many of them. And during COVID time, there was a backlog of, they said 28 weeks, but it ended up being 40 weeks that we had to wait to get a steering wheel because they're all older and they needed to have that clear separation within the warehouse. Unfortunately, or I should say their workshop, unfortunately, their workshop is very tiny, so they could not get the clear separation. Therefore, they didn't go to work. So wood steering wheels are rare, unique, and not very needed any longer. So I'm happy to say that we definitely commission them to build a lot of our steering wheels. And it makes me happy because we're keeping a craft alive. And I hope we can continue to do that for a number of years. Same thing goes into the interior being hand stitched. And when I say hand stitched, I don't mean somebody sitting there with a needle and doing it. They're using machines, but it's not run through a machine where it's just like zip, done. This is not an off-the-shelf interior. This is a craftsman that's sitting there putting the panels together and cutting the panels. Granted, the panels are being cut with a machine to make sure everything's precise, but it's a real person, a human being that's in England that's putting everything together. And that's why you see the perfection of the Helderburg interior, because it's somebody that cares about their craft, which again is something that's dying. So take a look at the interior. Absolutely love the interior. It does have the high fidelity audio system. It does have the 5-speed manual transmission with a 5th gear that's a higher gear. It has extensive sound deadening in it, so the stereo sounds really good. It has the hands-free calling built into the headliner here, so it looks like it's factory. It does have the backup camera that's built into the backup light, and it just makes for a beautiful vehicle. Take it all in, but I will say, go to helderburg.com, check it out, and I think you'll love this one as much as I do. And I will tell you my most favorite thing about Helios is just driving it, because the exhaust note on it is magical.